What is up, guys? Welcome to the video. Today's video is all about whether or not you can trust the body fat reading that your scale gives you. Now in this video, I'm going to break down what these scales are, how these scales work, whether they're accurate or not, and what might be some better alternatives for figuring out what your body fat percentage is. But we'll start by talking about what these scales are. So I actually have one of these scales. It's made by a company called Renpho, and I've had this scale for probably 4 years now. And essentially what these scales do is that they'll connect to like an app on your phone where it'll send a Bluetooth signal to like aggregate all the data that this scale gets and then puts it nice in like a neat little app on your phone. There are many brands that make scales like this, and most of them really tout the ability to figure out what your body fat percentage is. And usually they don't just do body fat percentage. It'll give you a percentage of like body water, what your lean body mass is, what your fat-free mass is, and a bunch of other statistics that really you don't need to know about. But if you're like me, you like getting data and you like to see these different things, and it's fun to see numbers, and it's fun to like gauge progress on more than just the actual number on the scale. So you might be drawn to this type of scale. But before you can really understand whether they're accurate or not, you kind of need to understand how they actually work. And the way that these scales work is that you'll notice that there's these 4 circles on the scale, and those circles will send an electrical signal through my body, a very weak, a very safe electrical signal to determine what my body fat percentage is. But how does it actually figure out what is fat, what is muscle, and all the rest of it? Well, as that signal goes through your body, it hits levels of impedance or resistance, depending on the tissue that it hits. So that electrical signal will face less resistance from muscle and water than it will from fat in the body. And by taking your height, your weight, and your age, and how much resistance that electrical signal faces as it goes through your body, it determines what your body fat percentage is. So theoretically, the more resistance that the scale faces as it sends that signal through, the higher body fat percentage is. And if the signal passes with little resistance in your body, it surmises that you have a lower body fat percentage. And this goes for just about any type of scale that tells you what your body fat percentage is. Whether you use an in-body machine, whether you use a handheld device to figure it out, or just whatever brand of scale you have at home, all of these tend to use the exact same method for figuring out your body fat percentage, and that is that bioelectrical impedance. So now you know what they are, how they work, and you're probably wondering, so can I trust my scale that I get on, that I've been getting a reading from and been trusting for all this time? And sadly, the answer is just no. You cannot trust that number. And here's why. These scales have been widely studied and tested against more accurate ways of determining body fat percentage, and they always come up as inaccurate. In a 2016 study, it was found that these scales, at their most accurate, were off by as much as 21%, and at their least accurate, as far off by 34%. And that is some serious variance if you're trying to figure out like an actual number to make decisions off of. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, so I've been trusting this thing and it's clearly wrong, are there better ways to do this? Well, yeah, there are better ways, more accurate ways to figure out your body fat percentage. There are things like the BOD Pod, a DEXA scan, good old-fashioned calipers can be more accurate than this. But at the end of the day, there is no perfect way to figure out what your body fat percentage is outside of an autopsy. And odds are you're not willing to figure that out. And at this point, if you're like really thinking critically about this and you're like, if I'm just measuring consistently inaccurate data versus consistently inaccurate data, won't my numbers be accurate to some extent? And that's a great way of thinking about things. However, it doesn't really work in this case, because having a lot more water in your body, like if you had a big glass of water before you hopped on the scale or something like that, like little things can really mess up that electrical signal that goes through your body. So thinking that consistently inaccurate versus consistently inaccurate gives me some type of accurate thing to measure off of, the problem is that it's not consistently inaccurate. You may be off by 25% on one day and off by 34 on the next day. So there really is no great way to determine your body fat percentage from this or make decisions based off of those scales. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I can't trust my scale and I can't trust this and I can't trust that, what can I trust to figure out my body fat percentage? And now we're left with the conundrum of there is no great way of figuring out my body fat percentage. And that's kind of the crux of this video here, is why does it matter to you? Really think about that, because it's just a number. If you look in the mirror and you like the way that you look, if you're happy with the way your clothes fit, what does it matter if you're 13 or 11% body fat? And I get being in the fitness space that like sticking a number to your body fat percentage is like this weird thing that we obsess over. Where being sub 10% body fat as a male is fantastic, or sub 20 as a female is fantastic, and things you want to shoot for. But at the end of the day, the number doesn't matter at all. So instead of getting so caught up in whether your scale told you you were 13% body fat and now it tells you you're 11% body fat, why don't you look in the mirror and think, am I happy with the way that I look? Do I like the way I feel right now? Will dieting super hard just to see a lower number on an inaccurate scale make me feel better about myself? And odds are the answer is no. So before you get all wrapped up in what your body fat percentage is and living and dying by a number that you get, trying calipers and a DEXA scan and a bod pod and buying a scale and all of these things, just remember that the number doesn't really matter as long as you like the way you look. And with that, I'm gonna end the video here. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was educational. I hope that you think a little bit differently about not just your body fat percentage scale, but also body fat percentage as a whole construct, all right? Remember that how you feel and how you like the way you look matters way more than any number. And of course, please like, comment, subscribe. I seriously appreciate you guys so much. We just hit 160 subscribers. I appreciate you all immensely, and I will catch you guys in the next one.